All right, we are live on 113. I just thought, we've been talking about hoax codes and the ICE agent with the 33 stitches near 33rd Street with the 333 on the address and all the usual indicators of hoaxery, which I think is referenced in that movie Wag the Dog, The Boys of 303. But we've discussed this ad nauseum for years. Our best explanation for it is 33 is order out of chaos, which really fits. But the definitions I apply to these are really based upon their context in which they're used. I'm not asserting that we got this out of some grimoire, but I certainly say that there's a pattern to how these things roll out. There are typical hoax makers. I mean, these hoax indicators are things that we've seen so many times, it's almost become like a joke. Like, okay, well, where's the obligatory 33? Where's the signature? Where's the gang tag signifying secret society, occult, Masonic involvement? And when we're talking about this stuff, we're not just talking about government agencies doing propaganda, bureaucrats, sellouts, and military mind war specialists. At the top of this, there are so many what you could consider to be esoteric signatures to it. What's up, let's go. I'm staying in school permanently. I mean, education's a lifelong thing, but I'm probably going to stay here until I can finish a few things. You're asking, so I'm already a couple of classes in today. I had the Army GI Bill, and I jumped through different degree plans: journalism, film studies, art, computer animation. And once I used it up, I just took a break. But I'm going to finish up my journalism work now. But I'm also taking an art course. Some of these courses, one of them is, I think it's on Saturday. It's like 6 hours. It's like all day. So I opted for one that's 3 hours, 6 to 9, twice a week. But I think that long stretches of time doing art makes a lot more sense than shorter periods, like maybe you've done for electives in high school or whatever. Because like 3 hours long, that's a lot of time to develop a work of art. And that's one of the things that's most difficult about anything, I think, creative, is just getting blocks of time to do it. And you'll never know what you can do in 3 hours if you don't sit down to put 3 hours into something. So it's kind of nice. It's a good change of pace, but it's also a good structure. So I'll have a more regular schedule. And one of the things that I intend to do here is, continue to build out the publishing company. So it's very important that I improve my writing and online communications. So I'm doing this for purely practical reasons. And also because the doors it opens, I figured there'd be something. So I'm trying to get into an office space so I can bring back the 24/7 stream, maybe even do things with guests. We certainly want to have open phones as a regular feature. And I thought this would open some doors, and I was right. I thought right. So I'm looking at various work study opportunities, and not to mention financial aid. So there's a good chance that within 3 or 4 weeks, we'll be back up to full speed, operational with the office space. But I mean, I never really stopped as far as the education process. I mean, what do you think this is? The whole think tank. All we're really doing is just researching, reading, attempting to understand things as things evolve. I'm just doing it now in a bit more of a formal setting, but there's a lot of reasons. Like, this place is sparsely populated. Like, there's nobody here. Like, I have quite a lot of space to roam around. In fact, I'm looking out for some areas where I can do some artwork in between. We'll certainly be doing these afternoon live streams, but it's the night streams where we'll be doing open phone calls, and that's about to resume. And we're getting deeper into the details about how we're going to conduct the great deconstruction, so I can't wait for that. What's up, X322? Yeah, I'm not here to, rock the boat or debate or challenge any orthodoxies. I'm just here to blend in. I'm just an NPC during these hours. And, I've functioned as an NPC and NPC turf undercover for a long time. It's very easy. Just strictly professional. I know I'm learning a trade that's rooted in deception that is foundationally disconnected from objective reality. In fact, today in the English composition, the conversation was Renee Good. So obviously I'm keeping my mouth shut. Yeah, I'm familiar with Les Luther, illusion warfare. He's done a lot of good work in Ukraine. In fact, I have interviewed him. Back when the IPS Insider was being published, at that time, I had interviewed him, and I actually have an interview, an MP3, and a transcription for publication, which I'll probably still release. I'll have to reach out to him again. There's a lot of overlap with what he calls illusion warfare and what we do. I noticed there's a few points of disagreement, but I think these are things to be talked out. For example, there are some who say, this event's fake, don't give it your attention. And I'm like, how is that any different than bodyguarding the psyops? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. It's like, oh, hey guys, I'm the expert here. I'm going to tell you this is fake, don't look. Like, no, I don't think I need some external person to be my mental immune system. If anything, when somebody says not to look at something, not to pay attention, that's your cue. Dig in. Because we're not forgetting these things. It's not notice it, disregard it, and forget it. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing. That's not our process. We're recognizing that these fake events are 100% persistent features of the world stage. These are historic events that are put into our timeline. Yeah, that's what it was, the double cross thing. Yeah, that's where I fell away from him. I disagree with that. I don't think that we need to even, unless you can fully break down the two timelines, the world stage, news bending, history bending, and the full extent of fakery, it's premature to start saying who did it and try to attribute it based on visual cues that might be accurate, but might be entirely subjective. Like there are some who would say, if you see orange on a news story, it's Masons. Because orange, according to a certain gematria calculator, adds to 33. Like, I spent a lot of time around Masons when I was involved with it, and even after for a while, studying all the different nuances, the different schools it goes into, the Scottish Rite, the Royal Arch, and Albert Pike, and I've never come across any sort of special significance given to the color orange. So I thought, well, what makes these YouTube content creators experts in this field where they can just say, hey guys, this is fake because it's orange. There's an orange cone. It's like at that point, it becomes what you could consider to be some kind of a fallacious thought process, some inbuilt bias. Well, that went away. And then it came back with purple, where suddenly if you see purple, it's fake. Don't pay attention. It's the illusion code. And then with Lex Luthor and the double cross thing, I feel like it's sort of the same thing. Like, look, I see a couple crosses. This is fake. Or this is the giveaway. I don't know if that's valid intel or if it really points to whoever is behind it. And I still refrain from that anyway, because I don't think we need to go with the who did it. We need to focus on the what is it. The who did it people are always misled by red herrings. They never really arrive at anything. Nor can they name names. And guess what we can do? We can name names. We can point out specific directors and writers, police chiefs, people in media, celebrities who are directly or 1 degree separated from direct involvement with each of these psychological operations. And we can put this onto a timeline, and we also can answer why. It's not to take your loosh. It's not to distract you. Like, oh, this is just distracting us from something big. No, these events aren't like, oh, let's run a psyop and distract them from a scandal, like Wag the Dog. That's not quite how this works. The events in question are planned so long in advance that these aren't meant to distract from something contemporary. But these are features in our psychological landscape that are being built in front of us, assimilated, and then, of course, reinforced indefinitely. So I don't think it takes a rocket surgeon to call things fake. I think that calling things fake is very low-tier truther stuff. It's almost just to the point where it's arrogantly dismissive incredulity rather than true skepticism. And so our approach is called fake, but to say what is the purpose of it, what's the utility. To my knowledge, not many content creators outside of our think tank have figured out what the long-term purpose is. Like, what's the point of psyops? Oh, it's to distract you. It's to influence your opinion. No. I mean, in a way, those are side effects or byproducts, but no, the purpose of the psychological operation is reality fabrication, the fabrication of our history and time control, control over the present, control over the future, and obviously all over the past. Not just retconning, but quite literally manufacturing history proactively. That's the big reveal. That's the only real conspiracy. And it doesn't really matter at this point if you can say, oh, the Jesuits did it, or this particular bloodline did it. Like, the who did it questions are misleading because they don't tell you what it is. And then it also doesn't answer anything. Like, if this is done by this group and these events are fake, then are we mad at this group still? And this is why the J-pill people fell away from us, which I'm happy for. I really don't care for that kind of demographic, these groups built on collectivism, these hive minds, racial hive minds. But they're like, well, you don't talk about the J-pill. Well, what are you mad at them for? Well, they did 9/11. They did JFK, CK. Well, those events were fake. So then where does your scapegoating lead you? So I see a lot of that as just misdirection. But I will talk to anyone. I think that Lex Luthor, obviously, one of the reasons why he's worth talking to is he's gone on the ground. He's done the reality testing of the PSYOP in his area. And that's something that we've done from the very beginning. It's one of the reasons why we issued out press passes. We give out press passes because we need to fact check the world as it's described if we're supposed to just sit at home and interpret it through the screen alone. But I'll reach out to Lex Luthor and do a follow-up conversation, and I want to run some of these ideas by him. Because just because someone is still adhering to some truth or orthodoxy or some old operating system doesn't mean we disregard them. It means we discuss and we see how close we are and analyze the differences and let them make up their own minds. It's not about 100% agreement. I mean, I frequently converse with fakeologists, and we both recognize the role of media fakery and how it shapes perception and why you shouldn't get emotionally entangled. But there are other points where we probably disagree, likely having to do with issues of immigration and vaccines or something. And these things are always connected. And I just point this out because I like to note the consistency of the model that I'm applying here. So there were 2 weeks in a row where we had a caller. 1 week he called in to talk about the needle. The next week he called in to talk about Somalis. And I've reiterated the point that the conspiracy theory right has been inundated with needle phobia and xenophobia by design. It has to do with relationship to power. Because if you're on the right, you're on the anti-side when it comes to your relationship to government. Limited government, distrust of government, etc. And so it's a closed border to government. Whereas the left is open. The left is all for global governance, open borders, open skin, and they're open to even alien invasion. Whereas the right is closed borders, closed skin, and they don't like aliens, terrestrial or otherwise. Well, these are compartments, and we have a very compartmentalized society by design, and our perspective is decompartmentalized. So if I see anybody adhering to any of these talking points or any of these mass propagated fear psyops, I'm like, okay, well, you still have 1 foot in the matrix. You're still 1 foot in the red pill universe, and maybe you're 1 foot off stage. But In order to really get the off-world stage perspective, you have to walk far enough away from the Truman Show to see the whole thing. If you have 1 foot in the Truman Show, you can't see the whole thing. You won't see the bifurcation. You won't see the split down the middle, the intentionally created schism that can never be reconciled. Like, there's no way that you're ever going to have the left and the right join forces, even if they agree on certain issues. Case in point, climate change. Far right and far left both believe in climate change. Conspiracy theorists in the woke right area, red pillars, and far left are all about the climate change. They just call it different things. One group gets riled up, frothing at the mouth about CO2, and the other group gets riled up, frothing at the mouth about clouds, misidentified as toxins and poisons and injections. Both of them live in fantasy land. And see, I'm sort of the mayor of Realville at this point, unless somebody can depose me or even do better in this position. But we have to maintain our intellectual integrity, and that means we don't get emotionally entangled in any of the anti-positions. Am I anti-ICE or pro-ICE? I'm a non-participant in your Psy-War. From my perspective as an observer, as an off-world stage observer, it wouldn't really be prudent or even useful for me to take a side. I mean, I have obvious opinions. You know, I'm not a bad person. I don't think people should kill each other. I don't clap my hands like a seal when the right-winger I don't like gets shot in the neck, and I don't cheer when a lefty going after a federal officer gets shot in the face 3 times. Like, I don't cheer for either of these, but the bloodthirsty, because that's what we're talking about. The media fundamentalists think these things are real. They're bloodthirsty. These bloodthirsty media fundamentalists quite literally cheer for the death of their political opponents. Oh, look, a CEO got killed. Let's throw a party. Let's dress up like the killer. Let's send him our panties and write him letters. Like the Mangionettes, his girl fan base. Now, I don't know if Tyler Robinson has a fan base outside of Candace Owens. But I don't see groupies for that guy. Although he might have a pack of furries. I don't know. But I don't get involved at that level. And I wonder about the consistency of these people's thought processes. For example, the ICE officer shoots the woman in the vehicle, right? Well, how do we know she's not a CEO? What if that person, Renee Good, was a CEO and she worked for United Healthcare? Well, then, if that were the case, then that ICE agent would be getting the groupies, and he would be applauded as a hero, am I right? By their logic. Because by their logic on the left, of course, murdering CEOs is fair game. So both sides are murderous. Neither side they have murderous hearts. Neither side has the moral high ground. So if they're going to say, oh, you're not anti-ICE, I'm going to say, well, you probably applaud murder. You're in the info war. I'm not fighting the info war. I'm kind of anti-war. And another thing, too, there's a lot of posturing. So people in the conspiracy theorist right will act like they're anti-war. Like, oh, we're anti-war. No, you're not anti-war. Because if you're slinging partisan propaganda, you're part of the war, because the only war that's really happening is the mind war. And if you're a propaganda mule for Big Brother, well, what does that mean? It means you're engaging in psychological warfare. It's not about intentions, because we can all admit everybody has good intentions. Who was it that said the road to hell is paved with good intentions? Like, I don't care about your intentions. It's your actions, and they have meaning. And if you're acting ignorantly in 2026 and you're carrying water for Big Brother, that's pretty much inexcusable, a lack of situational awareness, and you have no moral high ground, much less intellectual high ground, if you're operating in a fictional universe, in a hyper reality, acting like you have a grasp on reality and you're fighting for a cause. So I'm totally detached from the world stage drama. By the way, I've been selling Be Good pins. When I saw Mark Ruffalo flashing his Be Good pin on TV, I thought, the NPCs are going to buy this. So I made a Be Good pin. I put it on Redbubble, and I've sold about 15 so far. And this is through a third-party printer. It sells for $3. I get a 20% cut. So it's not a huge amount of money. But depending on, maybe the algo gods will smile upon me and it'll be the primary version that sells. It could turn into something. Cywar profiteering. Might as well. We're paying for it. Where do you think your tax dollars go? When you're paying money to the government to invest in things like solving problems that don't exist, going places that don't exist, like all that money you're paying for the next moon mission, well, they're probably just using, I'm imagining Sora TV, some AI. So where's that money going? Well, they're paying crisis actors, crisis looters. Oh, speaking of crisis actors, crisis fighters. So Andrew Tate recently lost a fight to a YouTuber or something. And the fight was disappointing. I remember I watched Andrew Tate fight 60 men and just took them all down like it was nothing. But in this fight, he was winded by round 2. And I thought, was he drugged? What happened to him? They put fentanyl in the other guy's gloves. What happened is this. The guy's a total construct. He's a reality TV show star, LARPing as the paragon of toxic masculinity. And one of the things that has come out of this whole story is that when he fought those 60 people he brought to his house, they were fanboys who had to go through a lot of exercise drills in advance. So they were pre-tired out. So they had no chance. But when it comes to his actual fight record and his claims of being a multiple-time world kickboxing champion, somebody did a deep dive. And every single one of those individuals that he fought, it was their first fight. It's like, oh, David Hogg, why don't you come fight Andrew Tate? Andrew Tate gains a point. The non-experienced fighter loses, and that's it. The guy builds his record off of people who've only fought one time. And they looked into one of the fighters that Andrew Tate fought and beat. And that guy had previously been banned from some organization because he was taking part in fixing fights, as in he was losing on purpose. So the guy's a construct, and it broke. Now, I don't know about Jake Paul. That's a separate animal. And there's a whole weird Jake Paul curse, where anybody who fights Jake Paul then suffers some kind of curse afterward. I read somewhere that Jake Paul's a high-ranking Illuminati warlock. Have you all heard that? I mean, the guy he was fighting got in a car crash afterward, and 2 of his friends died. 1 got decapitated. But anyway, crisis fighters. I guess it pays well. But what is this a structured takedown with Andrew Tate? So I kind of wonder if they do this thing where they bring up these idols, get everybody attached to them, and they pull them down in order to demoralize the group, in order to break any possible organization or movement from actually forming by creating the leadership and then destroying it, like iconoclasm. And I tend to think so because his mannerisms and his actions were just unbelievable anyway. Plus the whole 33 thing. Remember, Andrew Tate got busted after he bragged about his 33 Bugattis. Greta Thunberg snitched on him based on his live stream. He was eating a pizza, and the address of the pizza restaurant gave away his location. So that started his downfall. His entire downfall is precipitated by Greta Thunberg. And I know Greta Thunberg's mocked quite a bit by people on the right, but you don't get to mock her if you believe in chemtrails. Chemtrail Gretas are just as much environmentalist wackos as Greta Thunberg. But yeah, I think there might be a process here of taking down, our passport bros. I think I know what those are. So the ICE agent, like Derek Chauvin, has been criticized for having an Asian wife. And there's been this kind of stereotype that goes into that. And I first came across this when I read Henry Makow. He wrote this book called Feminism and the New World Order. And a lot of his research is pretty good, but he's a J-pill guy. But he does bring up a lot of interesting stuff that you might not otherwise know. But he got kind of famous in the manosphere for his writings about how the burqa is superior to the bikini, which is sort of a talking point among the right anyway, the MAGA ban. And these guys all get their orders from one location. Like on the same day, every single right-wing talking point was geared towards shaming women for dressing provocatively in the gym. But anyway, Henry Maycap wrote this book called A Long Way to Go for a Wife, talking about how if you want to find a wife, you got to get a passport because American women have been corrupted by feminism, and feminism is a plot by you-know-who. Typical J-pill logic, pandering to the incels, saying, oh, the reason why you're an incel is because this group controls America, they control Hollywood, they control values, they destroyed the family, and now you have nothing. And they're opening the gates, and you're being replaced. So a lot of what hits the people on the right, especially the woke right, is insecurity. You're gonna run out. We're running out of women. We're running out of people. And that's another bifurcated psyop. Far right says, we're running out of people. We're being depopulated. Bill Gates is depopulating us. We were just genocided. You know, a lot of needle phobes actually believe that we just had a genocide. Bill Gates did it. I'm like, show me the bodies. But they say we're running out of people. And I used to say, well, okay, we're running out of people, and you're mad about being replaced by AI, but then you also don't want immigrants. Like, here's your more people solution solved. Oh, you don't want those people. I get it. So everything is a euphemism, a cover, a misdirection, a dog whistle. There's no honesty on that side. But the left says, oh, we have too many people. Earth can't take anymore. Every human being is a tumor on the face of Mother Earth. Yeah, lasers, they actually say that. We got to preserve the race. We're going extinct. Yeah, and I tell them, I'm a white genocide denialist. I don't believe it. They get triggered by that. And I'm like, if you really believe that, you wouldn't be debating me online. You'd be out there replicating. Go to Europe. Go make babies. I first noticed this propaganda talking point when Eric Dubay brought it up. He got banned from YouTube for putting out this video where he's like, every race needs to have its own continent, like ethno-fascism to this alarming degree, where he's like, Africa for Africans, Europe for Europeans, Canada for Canadians, you know, just all the way down the line, Asia for Asians. Like, everybody needs to go and stay in their own lanes. And yet he's there in Thailand doing yoga, eating a vegan diet, married to some general's wife. And I'm like, okay, well, married to some general's daughter. Like, he's got a wife who's actually not, you know, his demographic wouldn't approve, you know. And then of course he's engaging in multiculturalism. He's not exactly praising Thor and having white babies to save the homeland. So who is he to espouse ethno-fascism? And I thought, well, that's kind of consistent down the board. You got Nick Fuentes. He's like, you got to get a trad wife, preferably, we prefer before high school graduation, because you don't want to go to college because the feminists will get them. So he's talking about marrying young, having a bunch of kids, and solving the replacement problem so they don't get replaced. The problem is he's a 30-year-old virgin, and he's also mixed race. So you got this white nationalist, white supremacist who's like wearing the, I mean, you're in the wrong body. I don't care how you identify. You can identify as a white supremacist. They will never accept you. Now, why do they do this? Because they create these leaders, like with Andrew Tate. They create these leaders that are dismissible, that can be discredited, and are likely compromised anyway. I mean, I never trusted anything from America First or any of these organizations anyway. But even if I was a believer in that stuff, I would find it very questionable that Nick Fuentes got his start with that guy who is Carl Rose's boyfriend, Ollie Alexander. So Ollie Alexander was grooming young male conservatives. like grooming. And there was this whole, look, it gets pretty bad because it was actually admitted by Owen Schroyer that Ollie Alexander grabbed him. Like basically SA, it was an assault, grabbed him. Like, I mean, he should have just done something then and exposed the whole thing, but he gave it a pass. Well, Ollie Alexander was going around saying that nobody gets into AF at their leadership level, nobody gets on InfoWars unless they send him a picture first. So in other words, to get into their club, you had to get into their blackmail circle. They're all mutually blackmailing each other. It's formulaic, and they all do it. This has all been admitted. It's pretty open. So people can choose to follow these misleaders if they want to. And you're like, well, I identify with their cause. Well, their cause is fake. You're not going extinct. It's grievance politics. The frog people, they call themselves groypers. These groypers are misogynistic, racial purists living in their mom's basements, talking about the need to build a new race, and yet they are all, they're celibate. Very bizarre. It's almost like a clown show. I mean, it's tempting to think these people are organic and they actually got in their position because of what they were saying online. But when you look at the company they keep, no way. These are walking psyops, lifelong characters. Just like Charlie Kirk, character, a polemicist, put into that position to spew those talking points. Well, Fuentes is no different. Fuentes represents the youth on the far right, and Charlie Kirk represented the youth in the moderate neocon right. But they're part of the same show. Absolutely part of the same show. They were antagonistic towards one another. Nick Fuentes was anti-TPUSA for this reason. But it's all theater. They're just basically, and it's not hard to do. I mean, Fuentes has some interesting delivery, but do you think he's actually original? No, he's David Duke. He's a youth leader with all the David Duke talking points. If you've seen Black Skinhead by Spike Lee, they have a character, David Duke. The actor looks like Nick Fuentes. It's a younger Fuentes. Fuentes even wore the same mustache for a while. And the organization's even called America First. And America First is another one of these indirect statements, because they're all about indirect, euphemistic dog whistles. Well, what does America First mean? It means Israel's first, and we need to fix that. It's their operating premise is that America doesn't control its own interests. That's why they're so thirsty for the Epstein stuff, because Epstein, being an agent for the Mossad, would validate their whole worldview and prove them right. Well, it's never going to happen because the whole thing was a made-up scenario. Apocalypse Theme Park says, I'm wondering when everyone will grow tired of the identity politics game. Okay, so I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to go watch Wicked Part 2. And if you want to understand why, it's simply that I watched Part 1. If you haven't seen it, it is definitely about Antifa. The witch is Antifa. The green skin is like the Joker's green hair. It's all code. Donald Trump is the Wizard of Oz, and he's a fascist. So it's an Antifa movie, anti-fascist, and she blows up, well, she EMPs the Emerald City. So the Emerald City represents Seattle. Seattle's referred to as the Emerald City. And this has been kind of in the code for a long time anyway, so it's not inconsistent with what we've seen. And there's more details I could go into with that. But my point is, Part 2 is called For Good. And now it's all about Renee Good. And you know this is a psyop because everybody's talking about it. First day in class, it's the only thing we're talking about. And this is English Comp 101. I mean, English Comp 1. Like very basic writing course. It's like, why are we talking about... I want to learn about... I want to write essays. I want to fine-tune my grammar. But no, I got to hear about Renee Good, the latest martyr. It's everywhere. It's pervasive. Be good. For good. So the show's called For Good, Part 2 of Wicked. And then I think it ties into identity politics because, one, it's a woman being shot by a man. The ICE agent represents the interests of, even like America First, purifying America, getting rid of the immigrants. So this man shoots a woman and he calls her an effing B. Well, what do you think that is? That's a misogynistic statement, which is not professional, which shows emotionality, and that phrase has been picked up. They talked about it in class today. I'm like, okay. No censorship either. Everyone's outraged. I'm like, okay, that was a line calculated. It was calculated to create the sense of outrage. Because now you can throw in the sexist thing. So the division is toxic femininity on the left, or feminism, toxic masculinity on the right, in the manosphere. So you have a paragon of toxic masculinity shooting a feminist. And then you add on to it, she's married to a woman. So now you have another group, identity politics, fusing with this. So I was like, why wasn't she black? If I was writing the PSYOP, wouldn't you want to do that? Just down the street from where Floyd was killed by a white officer, Derek Western chauvinism, the whole story would make more sense. But now it makes sense. Okay, I see. They're fusing identity politics, the groups, creating this coalition. So it's like multiracial, multi-ethnic, but also now you have this other set of demographics plugged into it. And I see women on TikTok saying, you know, like, or recording themselves crying. Like, I know at any moment I could be pulled over and killed because I'm a woman. My children will never see me. So it puts targets on the backs of the demographics. That's how it's perceived. So it's very well done. Everything's super scripted. But now again, Wicked Part 2, for good. Well, what have we seen in the build up to the movie and since the release of the Part 2 of Wicked? We've seen endless stories about the two main characters, Ariana Grande and Cynthia, what's her other name? The last, so the two, the witch, and the Wicked Witch and the Good Witch. So the two of them, the actresses, are on the world stage constantly. I don't know how you describe it. It's like they're on, what do you call it? Ecstasy, Molly. They're on drugs. They look like they're high because they're always patting each other, breaking down, crying, emoting. And so they have this interesting relationship. And I'm like, okay, that could be part of it too. I don't know if they're actually dating, but they're creating that perception. And I don't think it's insignificant now that we have this latest martyr named Good, and everything is being done for good. But so what I'm pointing out here is that their relationship has been showcased. And I think now it's for a reason. It's all about, so now you have the leftist Antifa-coded movie now tied into a real-world PSYOP against the same forces. What is Wicked 1 about? If you haven't seen it, Part 1, it's about how Oz has a secret police going around getting rid of the non-human leaders, the non-human professors from the university. So like one course is being taught by a goat. Well, the goat gets kidnapped by the secret police, and they're having these meetings like, oh, they're going to come, they're going to take us all. So it's like ICE. It's like ICE is going through Oz. And that's why the witch rebels and shuts down the lights, EMPs the thing, because ICE is going around. The Wizard of Oz is a fascist. So that's already built into this script. So Part 2 comes out for good. I'm like, okay, that's 100%. So I'm going to go watch that. Maybe I'll go check it out today. Smarty Pants says, PSYOPs always seem to promote the upcoming media, and the media always turns out to be predictive programming for something else. Yeah, it's on a timeline. It's on a program. Like you go to a play, and they give you a program. Hour by hour, these are the acts. This is what's going to happen over the next few hours. Well, there is a program for the world stage in the theater of Psywar, and this program extends out years into the future. We're not privy to it, but we can discern what's on the program by what is being pumped out through these various propaganda vectors, what is saturating the minds of the NPCs. And you can use Netflix or any streaming service. You can use mainstream movies to get a pulse on this thing, to get an idea of, okay, well, what's coming? And one of the big things, one of the themes has been EMP. EMPs have been like on the menu on the program here. Even with these latest breaking releases about Erica Kirk, where she's doing videos with the CIA and the DOD, all about EMPs. And her dad's got this interesting video for their Prepper Emporium. Again, EMP. Prepper Emporium. What are you preparing for? Blackouts, EMPs. It's redundant. And the commercial for that Prepper Emporium thing, it's got the soundtrack from, they play the song when the Chicago Bulls come out, Sirius by Alan Parsons Project, like the Dog Star. And it has images of humans, like Erica Kirk looking warrior princesses fighting against these ape human hybrids in this apocalyptic future. So when the blackout comes, I mean, it's like it's been in her script for a long time. Capture the Loop says, Wicked for Good is about death fakery, the wicked witch, the good can rule. Interesting. Leonard says, facts, Tim, that program is set out like 40 years ahead of us even noticing. Yeah, I mean, I was really considering here news benders 5 years in advance. But then certain big events clearly have decades in the making. The Twin Towers are planned to be taken down in a theatrical way when the foundation was laid. We're talking 33 years. 33 years into the future. I would argue, and debate me on this if you want, the Charlie Kirk thing was in the script, on the program, at least as early as 1998. Which means that the people who took the roles in that psyop were still children, toddlers, meaning they weren't even a roster yet. They weren't recruited yet into the pool of people who might be chosen. So the person who became Charlie Kirk, the actor who portrayed Charlie Kirk, we're talking about legends, as they call them in Russian intel. Plants, spies, agents, people with fake backstories. Charlie and Erica Kirk probably never even slept in the same house, much less had any children together. Her story's fallen apart. But her backstory, and there's more too. When you look at TPUSA, I'm going to get into this deeper later, but the connection between the Temple of Set, Mind War, and TPUSA needs to be explored. But these aren't organic characters. When Charlie got the gig, he sat down with his friend, with Erica was there, Candace Owens was there. By the way, Candace Owens' famous book is called Blackout, and there's a lot there too.